With Wave 3 of the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we got the release of the Archsages Gauntlet, the second challenge mode. This new mode is incredibly fun to play, whilst also being incredibly difficult at times, especially for those who aren't prepared. So if you're struggling to beat or even reach Wave 140 on this new mode, then this guide and video shall be for you. But before we jump into it, this video will contain hero spoilers, so if you haven't obtained the endgame heroes just yet, then click off of this video now. If you also enjoy all the content I make on this channel, then I'd appreciate it if you'd click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of the latest Xenoblade news, theories, and much more. With all that out of the way, let's jump right into the guide. When it comes to heroes in this mode, there are 3 important things that we're looking for. Number 1, reactions. Any hero who can add something to a driver combo is automatically good for this mode. One of the most important things, especially in the later waves, is that you cycle through smash combos, as this in many cases becomes the only way to deal sustainable damage to the bosses, some of which regenerate, and therefore being able to perform smash combos as regularly as possible through your heroes is a great thing to look for. Number 2, chain attacks. Towards the end of the gauntlet, chain attacks become more and more important, and dealing as much damage as possible from them is one of the things you're going to want to look out for. In addition, heroes with powerful and useful chain selections and orders are far more valuable than those without, so you should always keep this in mind when choosing heroes. Number 3. Role value. What I mean by this is how effectively can a hero serve their respective role. When I choose an attacker, I want DPS. When I choose a defender, I want them to take the aggro. And when I choose a healer, I want them to keep us alive. How well a hero can support the team through simply existing and performing the respective role can make or break your run. So those who fill this role better than others are going to be those you're going to want to choose. Now that we know the parameters, we can start to look at which heroes you should and shouldn't be picking up when attempting the gauntlet. For reference, throughout this section, I will be going off of this tier list that I made showing the viability for each of the heroes, based on those previously mentioned categories. It's also important to mention that each and every hero, even in the lowest tier, can be utilized in different strategies and builds, but either I believe those strats aren't particularly good in the first place, or I don't believe the builds they're good on could actually make it to wave 140. With that established, let's begin with the best hero that you could pick up. Melia. Melia is the perfect example of what a hero should be like for this mode. She has the ability to topple enemies, has an amazing chain attack presence, and can deal great amounts of ether damage through her elementals, both healing and applying debuffs also. She is simply all round the perfect hero for this game mode, and in almost all situations you should pick her up, no questions asked. The second best hero in my opinion would then be Ethel. Judging from the community post I released recently though, some of you may not be aware of just how powerful Ethel is for this mode. Similar to Melia, she fulfills all 3 of the above roles excellently through providing great utility with her smash talent art, an excellent chain order which boosts chain attack damage, and great DPS through her arts and bleed. I can't exaggerate enough how useful her talent art truly is, as paired with capable hands, she is able to instantly wipe out enemies in a single hit through a damage cap smash. Any chain order which also increases the damage ratio is automatically really good for this mode, so her possessing one, along with a buff to critical rate, is just the cherry on top. When it comes to defenders, evasion tanks are king, which is why both Ino and Ashera are also top tier characters. Ino possesses an incredible break art, which isn't directional, and Ashera has the only launch art in the game mode, meaning that if you combine every hero I have mentioned thus far, the AI can automatically perform smash combos for you, and that's not even mentioning how amazing both of them are in chain attacks. Ashera is slightly worse overall, however, as she can actually struggle to avoid attacks and survive, especially if she is on her lonesome, but she works excellently as an off tank in combination with another main tank, as long as they manage the aggro. When it comes to selecting healers however, then the tier becomes far more competitive. It's important to look at what your composition requires, as if you require more healing, either Nia or Masha will probably be your best bets, but if you've got that covered and would want more support through buffs, then Isurd or Fiona should be your main choices. Nia and Isurd tend to be the best solo healers, as they both have multiple ways to heal and keep your team sustained, so I recommend choosing one of these two for your primary healer. Isurd provides more utility through his attack up buff at the start of fights and a wide range of debuffs, whereas Nia has DPS and a better chain order that can literally save attempts that are going south. Masha, on the other hand, can struggle as a solo healer due to how her healing works, but she's great as a secondary healer, supporting either of the two I just mentioned. In addition, she supports the DPS through increasing their critical rate and provides a fast recharge buff which simply allows certain builds to function. That just leaves Fiona, and do I really need to explain why she's good? She provides the entire team with every buff under the sun and can give you an extra round during any and all chain attacks, providing you the opportunity to squeeze in that extra damage. Enough said. If you want to play things safe and have a little bit more protection, then Zeon is also a great defender to pick up. His HP can easily exceed 70,000 with the right emblems and accessories, turning him into a monster that simply never dies. Additionally, he also has his own topple art, making him a decent substitute in some compositions, but he does have one fatal flaw. After wave 70, enemies start doing damage that bypasses a hero's defense stat, making agility tanks far better through them avoiding this feature altogether. It's for this reason that I put the other two tanks higher on this list, but Zeon can still work around this flaw. Lastly, in the viable tier, we have Riku and Manana for one main reason. They count as both a Kevesi and Agnian. It's through them alone that mixed builds are even possible, and they even provide great utility with a break art and a number of debuffs, which, with the relevant emblems, makes performing driver combos all that easier. Even so, I do find them quite lacking when it comes to damage, even compared to heroes below that we'll discuss in a moment, but their sheer versatility and utility alone makes them worthy of being in the viable tier, even if at the very bottom. I also feel it's important to mention that you can relatively easily mix and match any of the heroes in this tier and have a good time throughout the gauntlet. So pick your poison and take up the challenge, as wave 140 awaits you. When it comes to the situational tier, however, then things are a little more restrictive. Each of these heroes in their own right can work really well in the gauntlet, but they tend to require something that allows them to shine. Segiri, for instance, is a clear example, as she's great when it comes to DPS, chain attacks, and spreading debuffs. However, she basically requires the emblem that lowers debuff resistance to be effective at all, as without it, she doesn't provide all that much utility, as well as there simply being better attacking options overall. Cammuravi, Triton, and Alexandria also have a similar issue. Each have their own reaction art and can deal impressive amounts of damage, but I wouldn't really want to substitute any of the heroes above for them. Cammuravi and Alexandria are also flawed through them being Agnians, by far the weakest race when it comes to that game mode, due to their complete lack of a defender, but both can be used to great effect on certain builds, one of which I'll talk about later. Triton, on the other hand, is in direct competition with Melia, and whilst I could make an argument for his usage in normal combat, the difference becomes night and day in their effectiveness during a chain attack. The remaining three heroes in this tier are then all grouped up once again because they're from the city. Grey can admittedly be pretty good with his wide range of AoE attacks, but due to his long animations, he does require allies who can peel the enemy away from him. Ghondor is good as a DPS, but as a completely useless Dazard, which will only interfere with driver combos, and Monica is simply the weakest tank. She does have a smash art, which might come in useful, but I find it's much better to run this art yourself, and if you really want a face tank, Zeon is better in almost every way. Whilst I won't call any of these heroes bad, and there are definitely situations where you will want to choose them, I do feel that there are better options, but they are still all very fun to play with. The bottom tier, however, has the heroes who aren't fun to play with at all. Each of these heroes I consider bad for this mode, and is more of a hindrance than benefit. You only have 6 heroes to choose during a run, meaning that each must provide some substantial benefit benefit to the team, but I can't in good conscience say that these 4 do. Miyabi, for instance, is an awful healer, only possessing a regenerate buff, and is useless when it comes to chain attacks. Her one saving grace is her fast recharge and talent art, but the above supporting healers can already provide this benefit, like I mentioned before with Masha. Her talent art also takes an eternity to charge up, so in most ways it will never be used anyway, so it realistically isn't worth choosing her. Teach also has a few issues, mainly him being unable to consistently heal the team and his talent art being near useless. If you also play on a New Game Plus account and haven't completed his Ascension quest, then Teach doesn't even have his 5th art, which would make him the worst hero to choose. Juniper is like Fiona, in that I don't think I need to explain why she's terrible, based on everything we've discussed thus far, and Valdi simply falls short when compared to every other healer. His whole gimmick is increasing his healing based on how many debuff he cleanses, which is good in theory, except until you realize that this resets every wave, and not every enemy uses debuffs, so for the most part his healing is shit. Excuse my French. Choosing one of these heroes in my mind is akin to throwing, and whilst you can beat the entire gauntlet with these heroes, I'm convinced that you would have a far easier time if you just selected someone else from the tiers above. Before we finish this video though, I'd quickly like to discuss some of what I think are the best builds for this game mode. My personal favourite is dubbed the Kevesi build, containing the heroes Melia, Ethel, Ashera, Ino, Nia and Masha, whilst playing as either Noah with Lucky 7 or Uni and FMJ. This build prides itself on its versatility and flexibility in all areas, with good sustained healing, strong dual evasion tanks, and smash combos galore, courtesy of the AI. If your enemy isn't getting sent flying every couple of seconds through driver combos, then yourself is pelting away at them with massive amounts of damage, through your arts and chain attacks both. You can see on screen now the exact build that I use with their accessories and gems, so feel free to pause the video and try this build out if you like. I'm also a fan of what we'll call the Evasion build, utilising the heroes Ashera, Nia, Isurd, Masha, Melia and Riku and Manana. This build's one core strength is Uni with a FMJ Evasion build, effectively functioning as the main tank. By cycling through your 3 master arts over and over again, you are in effect invincible, evading each and every attack that comes your way, and drawing all the aggro to yourself with AoE arts. This is how I managed to reach 140 on hard mode, and would have beaten it if not for my Nopwatch running out. Lastly, we have the mixed builds, which I enjoy using just for a bit of fun. There are 2 main compositions, which are the Agnian variant, utilising the heroes Melia, Ashera, Zeon, Nia, Isurd and Riku and Manana, or the City variant, which contains heroes like Cammuravi, Ino, Monica, Grey, Nia and Isurd. Both of these comps can be tweaked to your own preferences, but do require that you select an Agnian party member. I recommend Triton. These comps allow you to make full use of the Zeal and Prosperity emblems to increase your entire party's stats further, allowing for some great damage numbers and experiences. There are also a number of other builds that you may see floating around, such as Agnes healers only, using a revival strategy, or solo Uni if your name's a Nell, but when comparing these strats to the builds I listed above, then I find them lacking in one thing in particular, and that is consistency. Any build can likely take you all the way to the end of the gauntlet, but the ones I have had the most consistent success with are those I listed before, so make your choices carefully when selecting heroes and brace yourself for the challenge when you undertake the Archsages Gauntlet. I appreciate you all for watching this far into the video and hope that you found it useful. Each hero in their own right is usable, but hopefully this guide and tier list leads you to further success, especially if you're struggling to beat this new mode and receive the hidden exclusive accessory. If it did, then I'd love it if you'd click that subscribe button once more to stay up to date with all the latest on the channel. I thank you all for watching though, and hope to catch you in the next one. This is JB, signing off.